Time for Overlooked Stocks. George Tsilis is stopping by here to talk Visteon. Welcome back to Market on Close. George Tsilis, Senior Markets Correspondent. Good to see you, George. Another example of an overlooked stock that's kind of hiding in plain sight. These are sort of the MO of George Tsilis, and the more I read about this, a company spun off from Ford at the turn of the century, makes sense that it's doing okay, working on a lot of interesting products within cars.
Yeah, very much so. I think if you think about Visteon, this is a legacy manufacturer of things like infotainment displays and instrument clusters for vehicles, heads-up displays, and things of that capacity. But they've actually expanded their technology offerings, and we know any auto right now is basically a computer on wheels, and so effectively, things like telematics systems and software is another area where Visteon seems to be growing their technology architecture. This is a company that has a pretty balanced, revenue bring down or balanced revenue across the globe. If you look at their sales in North America and Europe, as well as in most Asia outside of China, it's around 30%. China sales are around 12%. And there were some concerns going back a few years about growth in China and also the competitive markets in the EV space, as well as battery technology, which is also an area that Visteon has their tentacles in. But, you can actually see since the April lows, Visteon is up considerably. I think part and parcel of what's happening here is that irrespective of some of the challenges in the EV space, where there's a lot of competitiveness and prices have been falling, Visteon has a lot of partnerships with major auto companies globally, and that includes, of course, Ford and GM here in the United States, Nissan, Honda, BMW, Toyota. So it's a well-positioned company with global exposure, and I think the technology associated with the smart cars, in present, but also going forward as telematics computers, in other words, data transfer machines through artificial intelligence and even voice recognition using AI, Visteon seems very well poised to potentially participate quite nicely in that regard. There was also a catalyst today. Wolfe Research did basically upgrade the stock to an outperform, and they've got a $123 price target because they see some of the challenges, including uncertain expenses, delays in product shipping because of tariffs, but also some of the uncertainty around China and what's going on in that country, because there's a lot of competitors in the telematics space and also in the automotive infotainment space that are Chinese companies. But one of the things about Visteon is they don't have a lot of exposure, about 11%, to the mainland China markets, which, again, may be a good thing considering that Chinese competition is very regressive.
George, I got kind of a curveball question for you, but I think you'll go with it. I'm looking at the list of the companies it partners with, and it's a who's who. I mean, you can probably count quicker the names that aren't on here that make cars. I'm looking back in time, and I'm thinking, hey, this used to be Ford's technology. They obviously saw opportunity to spin this company off because it expanded the marketplace. It allowed them to do business with the Audis, the BMWs, the GMs, the Hondas, etc. Is a company like Tesla, which is notably not on this list, going to look to something like that down the line? We know they're cutting edge with technology. Is that something that could make sense for a Tesla to find a way to license out its tech to expand its offering?
Well, I think, when you look at Tesla, itself as a company, it's really a software company. There are really impressive technologies with Teslas. They're very unique in the sense that they're developed in-house. So I think Tesla's a little bit different in this regard because that's more software orientated, including using vision cameras versus LiDAR and radar, which is what Waymo is using, is really proprietary to Tesla. And they're a data collection behemoth, and they've been collecting tons of data to basically broaden out their software offerings for autonomous driving. I think Visteon has a lot of room to grow in the artificial intelligence and autonomous vehicle space through the other manufacturers, because Tesla, if they do win this race in autonomous driving, will be licensing their software to every other manufacturer, including BMW, Honda, and so forth. Therefore, Visteon, which makes heads-up displays and, of course, information displays, will be able to participate from a hardware standpoint. So I look at Visteon more in the hardware space. I look at Tesla more in the software space. But again, two different companies, different ecosystems.
Well, yeah, good point. Last question for you then, George. We look at Visteon. Obviously, it's investing into some of this software and or at least even the hardware that can help with this software. Does it almost have like an embedded barbell then, where it's got these growth investments, but a pretty solid, I guess, moat around its core business that'll kind of keep things steady for investors?
I think so. I mean, Visteon is not a tremendously, a growthy company, if that's the right word to present. I mean, they're not growing very fast. In fact, if you look at sales last year, they were down about 1%. Earnings were still higher, so that's important. They were up by 14%. So when sales were down, they seem to have cut back on operating expenses. That's what you want to see. But nonetheless, prices have been down. I mean, last year, in the last 52 weeks, the stock is down, I think, 4 or 5%. Year to date, it's up 16%. Because I think there's a catalyst associated with vehicle technology. So I think Visteon is a namesake company in the core telematics and information display and instrument clusters for other vehicles outside of companies like Tesla. But nonetheless, I think there's a big push for vehicle technology. And that includes Visteon competitors like Aptiv, for instance. Lear is another competitor of Visteon, and also NXPI, which actually makes semiconductors for industrial and automation, and also the autonomous vehicle space. All these companies have been higher if you look at them year to date. And I think it has to do with the broad push that we're seeing both with Google and Google's Waymo and Tesla in the most recent launch with the robotaxi for Tesla, but also the continual success of Waymo and their technologies.
George, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. George Tsilis, Senior Markets Correspondent for the Schwab Network with the overlooked stock Visteon.